Good afternoon, everyone. This is Deborah with Kensington Cross Stitch. Welcome to Flosstube number 6. It is Friday, March 17, 2023, so happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. It has been a couple of very busy weeks around here, so you will see as we get into the video, there has not been a whole lot of stitching this last couple of weeks, but I'm hoping we're coming to the end of a busy period, and you know, just because there isn't a whole lot of stitching doesn't mean there isn't a lot of stitching talk to be had, so we'll be going to a couple of other subjects today, but you know, sometimes you just come home at the end of the day and you just don't quite have the energy to do some stitching, but you can still think about it, you can still watch Flosstube, all of those other kinds of things. So there's a lot more to the hobby sometimes than just the stitching. But hopefully you will enjoy what we talk about today, in addition to taking a look at some of the stitching that I have been able to accomplish. One of the things that I did do over the last couple of weeks is I made a very quick trip to Philadelphia for work, earlier this week actually, and as part of that visit I was able to see the Museum of the American Revolution, which is down in the historic district in Philly, and we were able to see one of their prized treasures, which is they have the original Washington's War tent. This is the tent that General Washington, President Washington, slept in throughout most of the course of the Revolutionary War. The War for American Independence, I believe, as some of us like to refer to it. And so this is something that he actually slept in. Like I said, this was his private space for, let me say that. There have been two tents. One was sort of his private space, and one was kind of his office and some things like that. So they actually have it. They've been able to kind of trace the provenance a lot of the tent throughout all of these years. And so we were able to get to see it as in a, you know, oxygen depleted environment, and you only get to see it very briefly because of the lighting and the need to protect it, because this is 250-year-old linen that we're talking about. And so it was just a really wonderful opportunity to get to see a piece of history like that went through so much, and not only the history of it, but also the interpretation of the museum, talking about President Washington, about the fact that you know, this was something that was with him throughout the course of the war, the goods and the bads of him and the war, and various aspects of life during that part of our history. And so I thought it was just a really well done exhibit. I'll put a link down in the description box if you want to take a look at it, but I'm sort of bringing it up because there was this little moment, there's a video at the start of this exhibit where you're, before you actually get to see it, it's talking about the history and all of these things. And there was this moment where they flash across the screen his initials in cross stitch, much like you would see on a handkerchief, for example. And I sat there and went, cross stitch? Oh, really? There's cross stitch on this. I wasn't able to confirm if there is actually his initials cross-stitched onto the linen of this tent. There was a question period, and I was fully prepared to be like, let's talk about the possible cross-stitch, but, you know, there were children and some things that maybe you want to give them a chance to ask their questions. But outstanding question. Are General Washington's initials cross-stitched onto the tent? I'm not sure yet, but it was just a really, really neat opportunity to get to see that, in addition to kind of why I was there for work. So just a fun little thing. Like, the lesson in this is there can be cross-stitch in everything. That's what I think the lesson of this is. So just a couple of busy weeks at work, but hopefully coming to the end of that, and I'll be able to focus on doing a little bit more actual cross stitch. But speaking of, also last weekend we had our first Connecticut Stitchers get together. Rachel, who is CT Stitcher over on Instagram, and I kind of organized that. We met at a Panera last Saturday, and we both arrived there a little bit early, and we kept saying, do you think anybody's going to show up besides us? I don't know. Do you think somebody else is going to show up besides us? I was the first to get there and kind of claimed the large table because it was free, while sitting there thinking, does everybody think I'm just being awful for coming and taking this giant table? But we had 4 other people come and join us, which was fantastic. We had a full table, didn't need to pull any other chairs over, but it was just such a wonderful opportunity to get to meet a couple other people here in Connecticut and just talk, and we shared ideas. We had somebody who was coming back to stitching after many years away and had run into somebody in the aisle of a Joann, and she was like, we're having a stitching day, you should come. So really fun opportunity to do that and to meet a couple of people that I've been interacting with in the comments. So I think we were all really pleased. It was, unfortunately our plans changed a little bit at the last minute. We were having some possible weather here in Connecticut, and so we had originally planned to start at 10 a.m., moved it to 1 o'clock in the afternoon in case of weather, which I think did kind of interfere with a couple of people's other existing plans, and the fact that there was some weather, certainly I think on the western side of the state. So hopefully that's not something we're going to have to contend with next time, because there will be a next time. We all agreed that this is something that we'd love to see continue, so we are planning to do another one of those, hopefully again in a couple of weeks. One thing I'm just going to toss out for the hive mind is we have been trying to think about possible other locations. We met at a Panera this time, which was fine. It was a good opportunity to, there was space, there was food. It's a central location, it sounded like, for a lot of people, but not really a private space. It's just a lot of activity while we were there. So we were thinking about possible other places that we could meet instead. I know public libraries are often a place where stitching groups get together. Connecticut libraries in Connecticut operate a little bit differently than in some other states, in part because of our governmental system, which is one of those random things you don't think that you normally talk about in a cross-stitch video. But long story short, Connecticut abolished its very minimal county government system many years ago. They essentially exist in name only, and so it's either the state or it's a municipality. And so most public libraries in Connecticut are operated by their municipality or some private organization. So in a way that in another state you might say, go to the public library in this county, you're dealing particularly with individual public libraries in Connecticut, and very understandably, they often have things like residency requirements. You know, half of the group has to be from your town in order to book a meeting room or a study space, which, like I said, completely understandable. It's a free resource, and if you don't regulate it, you run into a tragedy of the commons. But it does mean in cases like this where you really are trying to bring people together from across the state, kind of meeting some of those can be a little bit difficult. Very long way of saying, if you know of a public library that would allow a group that isn't necessarily from that particular municipality to get together, let us know. Or if you're from somewhere else and you have an idea of a good kind of free place where people can go together and schedule an event, let us know, because I think we're interested in at least thinking about other possible locations. So anyway, that was a really fun opportunity to get together and meet some people last weekend. And I actually have another stitching day that somebody else is organizing next weekend that I'm looking forward to. So it's all about stitching. It's all about stitching. The other thing is in addition to not doing a lot of stitching, doing stitching adjacent things, I did put my new spring display up, so I will pop a photo of that into the video. Depending on where I get to in the editing process, it'll either be here or it will have been at the start of the video, but you'll just get a chance to see what I wound up putting out on my spring display. So that, I think, is all of the preliminary information for this week. Before we get into the stitching content, I am going to go over the winners from last video. If you remember, we did have a giveaway to celebrate 1,000 subscribers, so hooray! We had 2 prizes to give away, and the winner of the first one, let me see if I can pull this out. So this was the first item that was offered, and this is a Véronique Enganger book, and it has a whole lot of patterns related to hot drinks, coffee, tea, hot chocolate, things like that. So the winner of this one is Eileen Lavoie. And so actually Eileen is from Connecticut and sat just to my left at our stitching day last week. I promise this was not rigged. It really did go to Eileen. So Eileen, I have your address and I will pop this into the mail to you very shortly. So I hope that you enjoy. I know that you have been doing some purchasing of other French patterns. So I hope that you enjoy this very much, and congratulations. The other item that we gave away for the giveaway was a $25 gift certificate to Stitch New England, which is Pam, who is the Flosstuber Stitching in the Land of Good Enough's shop, which is in Massachusetts. And the winner of that was Post Muse. I'm not sure if your full name is attached to your account, so I will say Post Muse, but I also have your address and I will get that in the mail to you. So congratulations to both of you, and thank you. Thank you for watching. I know that you have both been watching very much from the early stages of my Flosstube. The early stages, like I didn't just start this like 2.5 months ago. Anyway, congratulations, and I hope that you enjoy those objects. Okay, I think at this point we're going to turn into the actual stitching content. So we'll start with whips. I will go a little bit into some plans, because I do actually intend to get some stitching done certainly this weekend, absolutely, and next weekend at the stitching day, and hopefully in between. So just a couple of things to go over. We'll talk about recent acquisitions, and then I'm also going to do a pattern parade today of cat-related patterns, partially spurred on by some of my market purchases, but I just thought, you never know when you need to look at a cat pattern, so that's how the video is going to end today. All right, the first project that I have been working on is one of my old faithful projects. This is something that I'm going to be completing over the course of this year, and this is Twin Peak Primitive's Christmas Market project. And I've rearranged things a little bit. I've talked about that in past videos, but it's just a really fun, really fun. I noticed in my last video, that's one of my favorite terms in these videos. It's a way to celebrate the Christmas market experience that you get in European countries. So this is generally what the project will look like. I've rearranged things a little bit. It is still in my hoop because I had set it aside the other night planning to get right back to stitching it and didn't, but you know what? I'm going to do it this afternoon, so why take it out? So I am starting on another stall, and this one will eventually be, I think it's essentially the wooden toys stall. So you start seeing one of those. This is, I believe, one of those toys that you light a, it's not actually a candle, it kind of moves by the wind. And there is a couple of other small items like that. There's a rocking horse and some things in the pattern. So we are making some progress on that, and my goal for this is essentially to do one stall a month. So it's mid-March. I would say I'm not quite halfway. I'm probably a third of the way through this stall, but making good progress. So definitely going to be able to keep pace with that one. So I am continuing to work on my market stall project. I'm going to move these over here. The next one is a piece that I started for the Best Bunny Sal. This is a sal that's being hosted by Katie, the novel stitcher. And so if you haven't heard about it and you would like to join, or you've heard me talk about it and others talk about it but haven't joined yet, you can absolutely do it. So this is just a very loose sal. It's essentially anything that has a bunny in it or is bunny related. There's no start time, there's no real end time, and it's just people enjoying the stitching process of bunnies. So the project I'm working on is Teresa Kogut's Bunny and Bee. I did make a little bit of progress on this one. And so last time I believe I had essentially the outline of the bunny done. And you're able to see that I was able to start doing just a couple of the stems of those flowers and then filling in the bunny's body. This is one that I think I had mentioned is really good for something like a stitching day where you're really talking to people and you want to just do that fill in. So that's a project that I will probably actually set aside until next weekend when I'm at the stitching event and keep working on it. But I am using XG Designs matte flosses, and I'm stitching with one strand over 2, and this is on the 32 count linen. So continuing to work on that little guy. And the last piece that I have been continuing to work on over the last couple of weeks, it's a very quick stitching video today in terms of the stitching content, as I said. This is my Rainbow Temperature Supernova, Rainbow Temperature Supernova. And this is by Climbing Goat Designs, and this is a temperature piece, and so I'm working on it. It demonstrates the minimum and the maximum temperatures every day in my location. I am a couple of weeks behind, so I believe that this essentially takes us up through the end of February is what we're seeing. And one of my goals for this weekend is to get caught up on that. I usually do it on Sundays is usually when I sit down and spend a little bit of time on it. So if you're new and want to take a look, this is essentially what the project will look like by the end of the year. One that I have really been enjoying. It's just, it is really fun to just kind of note what these little moments about every day and kind of what makes each of them individual and unique. So continuing to work on that one. That's it. That's the stitching I've done over the last couple of weeks. I said that it's been a couple of busy weeks, but I actually took some time off this afternoon. I'm filming it kind of early afternoon on Friday in recognition of the fact that it was a long week otherwise. And then I have the weekend. So there is going to be some stitching happening. But I do want to show you some of my stitching plans. I had showed both of these before, but my hope is that I will actually get these two projects into my stitching rotation very, very shortly. So one of these is a project I've shown in the past, and I'm going to be stitching this little Easter bunny in the Easter egg shape. And I will be using this Zweigart dotted 28 count linen, and then I've already pulled the floss, which is a mix of DMC and Anchor, just these really soft pastel spring colors. So this is one that I am probably going to get started on more than likely this weekend, because I'd really like to get that one into the rotation. And the other one that I am going to be working on is another one that I showed you in the last video. And this is from my Helene Berre Monochrome and Tonals book. And let me see here. So the piece that I'm going to be stitching first is this little Carotte, which I think is just a lot of, I was about to say it's a lot of fun. It's adorable. Let's use a different word for the occasion. And I'm going to be doing it in two different colors rather than just in the monochrome as stitched originally, but I think those will go very well. And I'll be stitching it on this 18 count linen that I had pulled. So I think that they will stand out really well. And so the reason that I'm kind of saying I'd really like to get these things done is, one, it's spring, we're in the midst of all of our spring stitching, but also there is a new SAL that I mentioned last time that's going to be starting up April 10, and so I kind of want to get a couple of these things off of my stitching plate before then so I can focus on something for that SAL. So that is Sarah, who is Sew Me Sarah's Get Your Kit On SAL, which is just actually using kits and kitted items, which I definitely intend to participate in. So like I said, I want to get a couple of these things started in part because they're spring and this is the perfect time of year to be stitching spring, but also looking ahead just a little bit, having some space in my stitching and making sure, one, these get done this year, and then also making sure I have a little bit of time when we get to that SAL in a couple of weeks. So those are my plans over the next couple of weeks. You've seen the stitching that I have been working on. And I think with that, we're going to turn over. First, I'm going to do the recent acquisitions, which is the haul portion of the program. And then I'm going to follow that with a parade of a cat pattern parade, like I said, inspired by a couple of things that I purchased at market. If you want to see the cat pattern parade, but you don't want to see the haul, just skip forward just a couple of minutes. It's not a big list of things, so you should be able to skip forward very quickly. Or if neither of those things are your jam, please feel free to head on out now. And thank you for joining us. So there we go. All right. So the couple of pieces of haul that I have purchased recently, In part, I want to show you, I'm going to hold up this book again because part of what I did is get some items to kit up another project from this book, which is actually the original reason why I purchased this book. And that is this beautiful monochromatic peacock design. And I was thinking about it, and I did want to do it in just kind of that white color. And I wanted to amp up the color of the fabric that I was stitching on a little bit. So I've looked around a little bit in terms of what I could find. And extremely fittingly, I found this beautiful linen that is called peacock linen. So you know what? I had to buy it. This is a color that is available, is dyed by and available from Jude Design. So if you are familiar with that designer and dyer in Hungary, I thought this was just going to be the perfect backdrop because I really did want to amp up the color of the fabric to think of it, to kind of evoke that peacock color scheme, even if I wasn't actually going to be stitching that for the design. And so then I bought a couple of packs of silk, also from Jude Design, in order to actually do the stitching for that. So I think that's going to be really beautiful when I get started on it. And just because I couldn't, you can't only buy what you intended to buy when you go to a shop. So I also picked up just a couple of other flosses from her, I assume her, them, I'm not sure. And then also this beautiful orange. And as usual, they also sent along a little sample piece of fabric. It is always just a tiny little cute piece, just enough to do the world's tiniest small, which I stitch a lot of smalls, so it's great. So I love getting these. I've loved getting these packages, but that was just a couple of the little things that arrived for that project. In terms of other haul, I did get my hand-dyed fibers silks from Victoria Clayton. I never take them out of the package until I'm ready to actually process them because I have 2 cats. So they stay in that bag right up until we're ready to do something with them. I also received the latest edition of Création Porte-Croix magazine, which is a French cross-stitch pattern book magazine, and I did receive that one, so always exciting to do that. And then the rest of what is here is my Nashville Needlework Market haul. I felt like I showed a lot of restraint, a fair amount of restraint, a little bit of restraint. I feel like I got about a half a dozen things, which I felt like I would probably walk into a store and maybe walk away with half a dozen things. So I didn't feel like went completely overboard, but I also didn't stop myself from buying things either. Oh well, it's always fun. So the first couple of things that I bought were, you'll be very surprised, Heart and Hands, there we go, Honey of a Tiny Town. So this is part of the Tiny Town series, which is all the rage these days, very understandably. So I loved the blues and the yellows of this one, so definitely had to get that one. And I did pick up the optional frill, and what I intend to do is actually stick this piece right in the center, swap it out for where the hive is in the original, and make it just one piece together. So that's my plan for that project. I also received the Between Friends booklet. This is the first of 4 intended booklets that is a partnership between Hands On Design and Summer House Stitchworks, and has several different projects. This cover project is very much one of the reasons I liked it. So this was born out of a time a number of years ago in which they went to a retreat and were both there and did a kind of a joint project for the attendees, and then they have continued to develop that. And my understanding is there will be another one of these booklets for each of the seasons, so more future purchases. I also bought another Hello from Liz Mathews project. This is Gifts from My Garden. I think that this is just stunning. I absolutely am a sucker for florals, but just the pop of color is beautiful. I am realizing that I have purchased quite a number of her designs, and yet I've not actually started stitching any of them, so I need to remedy that because she has such an eye for color and detail and a very unique design perspective, which I really love. So I had to say yes to that one. And then the last thing that I purchased from Market is a Primitive Hare booklet. This is just a tiny little guide. And this one is Winter. And it has, I think, probably half a dozen projects inside of it. The reason that I purchased this book is this cat. And it's cut off, but it just says, just an old sampler cat. I could not say no to that little guy. His whiskers and the facial expression, I needed this one. I had to purchase this. It was, I think this is the one that kind of tipped me over from, oh, I can wait. Yeah, there's nice things at Market to, no, I need to make a purchase. So that is just one that I am excited to own and to think about when I'm going to be stitching it. The other piece, the last piece of haul, in case anybody is kind of checking in and out on when I am going through that, is this is a pattern that I have known about for quite a number of years, and I didn't purchase it in part because I think I was hoping to find it in print. As you've seen, I do prefer print patterns. Even if I buy them as PDFs, I print them out. It's just my preference. And I think I was hoping that I would be able to find a copy of this in print magically at a shop or online, and didn't. And so I was reminded of it recently, and I just said, I'm just going to buy this. So it's just one sheet of paper, and this is a Jardin Prive project, and it is this little cat. Let's see if I can pull it forward. Sorry, I'm also working around my microphone here. Cat that has the alphabet in the center of it, so it's ABCat. So cute. I love it. It's just a single monochrome color stitch, and I came across it. I was reminded of it again recently and discovered that you can buy her designs online on the website. So I just was like, I'm going to do this before I forget about it again. And that is also something I hopefully will get started stitching very, very shortly. So that is it. That's the recent acquisitions. Little bit of restraint, not a lot of restraint. Anyway, but as you can see from the last couple of things that I purchased, cat projects are on my mind. I will say, I do think at least some people tuned in hoping that the cats will show up. Doc was here as I was preparing for this video, but has disappeared again. So sometime soon again, there will be cats in this video. But even if they are not live cats, we're going to talk about cat patterns because obviously I'm a cat person. Many of you are cat people, and we may as well celebrate that in stitching too. So given that I had purchased very consciously 2 cat patterns recently, I thought, I wonder how many other cat patterns I have. I was like, I know I've got some, but I wonder. It's a little bit of a stack. It's a little bit of a stack. So I really need to get started stitching on some of these. But in the meantime, if you also are interested in the idea of cat patterns and what's available, I'm happy to show you what a few of the things that I have. So that will be the last portion of this video, is just a little bit of cat patterns, or a few cat patterns. Let's just make these things easier to get to. So this is, the first one is one that I've had for quite a number of years, and this was a little series called Flare from Bent Creek. So this is just one of them. There's this little smiley cat. There's a snowman. There's a little pair of ducks in the rain, some things, and I have all of them, and part of the reason I haven't stitched them yet is I keep going back and forth if I want to stitch them individually or if I want to stitch them maybe as a row or as a series in one piece. I haven't quite made up my mind, but they're there. And look at that guy. He's just so happy. So that is Smile by Bent Creek from the Flare series. This next one is from Heart of the Country and is a piece that I actually picked up on a freebie table at Stitchin' at the Farm last fall. Let's see if we can get the... It's also a photograph, so I don't know if I'm even going to be able to get rid of the glare. I'm going to put my finger right here because there we go. there is a tiny little cat playing with a ball of yarn in this project. That's why I picked this project up. So I probably wouldn't stitch the entire thing, but I do love the image of these women doing various different handicrafts. There's a woman stitching, there's a woman, I think, knitting, there's a woman spinning, and you know, you've got a cat playing with a ball of yarn. So that was too cute to pass up, and the price was perfect. This is another Bent Creek piece that I have had for quite a number of years, and I really should get started on some of these. And this is from the Snapperville series. I'm doing really well today. Sorry for the zipper. And as you can see, maybe in the center, there's a little cat sitting on the fence post. That is absolutely why I bought this pattern. So another one, and that would be an easy afternoon stitch. So we'll definitely have to pick that one up. This is a Dirty Annie's pattern, and this is something that I actually purchased last market. Have not started, so let's be real. That's probably what's going to happen with this year's market's purchases too. But this one was just too cute. That little cat with his little cheeks, her cheeks, who cares? Their cheeks. Perfect. I did pick up the linen, which is the called for linen. One of those instances in which the picture doesn't really match it, and so I was like, oh, that's what it is. But I think it'll be really cute, and may or may not stitch everything in the pattern, but I really love the detail in the ground there. So too cute to pass up. This one is a Madame Chantilly pattern, and this is Cats in the Rain, and it's just a woman in her yellow rain jacket, absolutely keeping all of the cats dry in the rain. I know that Lourdes from Love to Boogie, Love to Stitch has been working on this project, and every time I see it in her videos, I'm like, yes, I need to pull that out. So definitely one to work on. This next one is a Lindy Stitches pattern, and this is called Halloween Tales. This one has obviously two different patterns in it. It's got the little Franken cat, and then what is, I think, my goodness, the glare, afternoon glare. There is that amazing, amazing purple horse with the cat just majestically riding on its back. It is phenomenal. That cat and that horse are phenomenal. Returning briefly to the topic of Bent Creek patterns, you'll notice that these are simply organized by size. That is how we are organized. This is Eek, and it's got this cat jumping over the sampler alphabet. Oh gosh, that is such a fun project. Gonna have to stitch that one. This next one is a Teresa Kogut project. I know that this was released at the Jingle Ball. I don't remember if this was one of the exclusives or not. I apologize. If it was, it's not, probably won't be available until probably again around next Christmas time. I'm sorry, I don't remember. But this is one I absolutely had to grab. And it's because of the cat with, I mean, I love the design generally, but it's got a cat with a little Christmas hat on it. You'll notice lots of black cats in stitching. As somebody who has a tuxedo cat, I have no problem with this. This next one is, I'm going to have to cover up the pattern on this one, but this is from a UB design book that I've shown in some recent videos. And one of the pieces that's in there is this cat playing with this little ball of yarn. There is also a version of this in which they're kind of reaching up into a large planter, but I love the, as somebody who crochets and has a very large yarn collection, I gravitate toward the yarn version. And part of it is this book actually came with a little card. So it's, you can make this a card and it's got that little, little piece of yarn. So that one is so cute. Moving on, we've got a series of digital patterns that I purchased over the last, well, actually, could have been a while ago. So the first couple of these are, if you're a cat person, you've probably seen several of these already. They were very popular, and I'm realizing that they're out of order. We'll get there eventually. So this one is the Christmas Sweater series by Stitching with Coffee. And these came out kind of Christmas time last year and were very popular for understandable reasons because they're adorable. And it was just a whole series of cats wearing Christmas sweaters. And I purchased 2 of them. I really focused on kind of purchasing the background that I really liked, and I may change the coloring of the cats just a little bit to match my 2 guys. But although this one is fairly close to Doc, so it's a cat surrounded by stockings. It's adorable. This next one is also a Teresa Kogut pattern. This is one that comes out that was available for her patrons, and this was tier 4 back in November, and it's a Christmas cat. I mean, she looks like Saint Lucia. Santa Lucia? Now I'm forgetting. The Swedish Christmas woman. But I just thought this kind of evoked that while also just being this very regal and majestic cat celebrating Christmas. So that one was absolutely needed to be downloaded and printed out. This next one is another Lindy Stitches pattern. I believe that this was a freebie. I don't know if it has been released or if it's still available, but I believe I originally got this through her newsletter. And it is this Sugar Plum Dreams, and most of it is about this horse, but you'll notice that there are 2 cats, one of which is sleeping on the top of this horse. Because cats, 1, will sleep anywhere, and 2, own the world. So that just very much demonstrates that particular aspect of cats. This next one is from a Ukrainian designer, and this is Maria Brovko. And it's called Witch Cats. And so you see it's just 2 cats on this giant comfy chair with books and the witch's hat. As I've said before, I'm not a big Halloween stitcher. I tend to go for like essence of Halloween as opposed to Halloween. So I would probably just leave the hat off, but you know, the complete way that this cat is just draped over this chair like it is a piece of putty is very accurate as well. So that one was too cute to not get purchased. These next 2 are also by the same designer, and actually these come in one pattern. It's just 2 variations on it. So it is a cat in a teacup, and then you also can get, actually I think this is the kind of the primary version is a little white cat, and then the gray version is the alternative, but you do get both of those when you purchase that. And then this is another one that is a Ukrainian designer, and it is this, has any cat ever committed more mischief than this cat? I don't think so. This cat is the creator and originator of all mischief in the world. That's what this cat's expression says to me. And he's also very happy to be wrapped up in that cozy blanket. So this would be like a pain to stitch just because it's so much solid stitching, but when it's worth it for when it's done. Absolutely. Another couple of more Ukrainian designers. This one is a silhouette of a cat, lamppost, city scene, just gorgeous kind of evocation of so many different things. So absolutely needed to come home with that one. It needed to be downloaded from the interwebs into my house. And then last 2 that I purchased, also I will link all of these in my description box. This is just a cat really enjoying himself in a winter scene with a Christmas cactus. I was thinking I also purchased an alternative one, which is a fox enjoying himself, kind of like an autumn scene. I really love these plants, and I was thinking I might transport this cat into this window. I'm not sure, but either way I needed to have them. So those were very cute. Couple of more little cat patterns that we've got. The next 2 are from the Victoria sampler. This one is wintertime. This is from a series of seasonal patterns, although I bought it for the cat, not the seasons. So just this cat in the window looking out at the birds. My little guy Wesley, my tuxedo cat, this is him. He loves to sit in the window and he loves to watch the birds. So I probably, if I can, will change him a little bit so that you get some of that black and white aspect of the cat, but most of his coloring is on his front rather than his back, so I may just leave it as is, but this is Wesley. This is Wesley. Similarly, also from the Victorian sampler, my cats love to sit in front of my fireplace. They are jealous and bitter if I ever attempt to sit in front of the fireplace instead of them. So this is very clearly a winter scene in my house. I probably would change it so it would be just 2 cats as opposed to the cat and the dog, but good place to start. So very much life in our house. This next one is a Hello from Liz Mathews pattern. This one was an exclusive through a Halloween club, I think through Kitten Stitcher, if I remember correctly this year, but I assume that it will be released hopefully around Halloween next year. And this is just such a fun little project. You actually stitch it on 2 different pieces of linen and then sew it together. But obviously we've got the little black cat right in the window. Gorgeous, gorgeous coloring, gorgeous pieces. That little peacock fabric, if I have some left, would be perfect for the background on that one too. Just a couple of final patterns. This one is an older Erica Michaels pattern that's called Jingle Cat. One of which is, I believe this is Santa sitting in his chair with the cat, or you could stitch the cat just on his own, her own, with little antlers. So that one was just too cute, too cute. And this actually comes with the banding and ribbon and bells that you see there. So it is actually a kitted project. It's a kitted project. I could stitch this for the kit sal. We'll see. This next one is from Autumn Lane Stitchery. And oh my gosh, that is just hilarious. The expression on that cat's face, he is done with everything. He's just tired and done. Yeah, you don't even have to explain it. It's just him. So I really like the entire pattern because it fits. There's this cat just kind of in the midst of all these pumpkins with his facial expression, but it's also a lot of stitching that may or may not happen. So I might just wind up stitching the cat. It works either way. And then the last cat pattern that I have, I'm sure that I missed some cat patterns, but these were the ones that I was able to pull very quickly, is a Teresa Kogut project, and this is from Love Lives Here. This whole series of patterns were originally from her Patreon, and she has released some of them in various booklets, and so that was one that I needed to purchase. There were a number of good projects in here, but the reason that I purchased it is, let's see here. All right, I'm gonna do this horrible thing. This one. This is the one I'm trying to show you. There we go. Look at that. It's the cats with those tulips in the house. Oh my gosh. I saw that and I was like, there were a number of other patterns in this book that I liked, but I saw that and I was like, well, checkout time for me. That was what we needed to do. So I absolutely purchased it for that reason. So those are just a couple of cat patterns. I thought clearly cats are on my mind and why not share it with everybody else? So I hope that you enjoyed that. This is a quick video for me today, but like I said, sometimes life gets in the way of our stitching, but that doesn't mean that we don't find various different ways to enjoy stitching, think about stitching, and continue on. So I hope that you all are having a good week. Happy weekend as you are heading into the weekend. If this will get uploaded on Friday. So happy St. Patty's Day. I hope that you have a wonderful time celebrating that for those who are celebrating. And I look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks for another stitching video. So let me know in the comments, like, are there other cat patterns that I don't know about that I should know about? Let me know. If you have thoughts on which of these I should start stitching next, let me know. Maybe that's just one of the things I should do, is just constantly have a cat pattern going. Oh, that's a good idea. Who wants to join me in on a constant cat sal? constant cat cell? Did I just come up with a hashtag? I don't know. Let me know if that sounds like it's something of interest to you. And we'll go from there. So have a wonderful weekend, and it was so good to see all of you. Bye.